Mogambo Kushwa. I hope you all are Kush. Shekhar, films apart, much of your work today has been on AI. You've been really championing the cause of AI. Are you writing yourself out of a job?
That's okay. I've worked long enough. But no, I'm a big champion of AI for many reasons. It's probably the most democratic technology ever. Am I being overtaken by AI? No, it took me 10 years to write the script. So storytelling never goes away. Storytelling, the idea of unpredictability that AI can never match. When people ask me as a creative person, will AI ever overtake you? I tell a little story I tell here. Never mind. Okay. I lived in Delhi as a kid, 11, 12 years old. When the monsoons came and all the little rivers were flushing down, we used to go to Simla, we used to go to Mussoorie. And one of the things that I loved doing, absolutely loved doing, was jumping down the boulders of a gushing river. You go one boulder, you find the second fine, a third and fourth. By the time you get to the fourth, your momentum has picked up. And then you need to know the next 5 boulders. And at one point, you get into the zone. What's driving into the zone? You're afraid of dying. That's what's driving, because you want to do that. Your intuition is taking over, but you hope you won't die. And you have faith in your own abilities not to die. Afraid, faith, hope. And there are very many other things. And somebody would say, Shekhar, just take Elon Musk's little chip, put it in you, and that'll just lead you. AI will lead you. You'll never die. You don't need to be afraid. And my question is, then why would I do it? That's the point. We're human because we're afraid. We're human because we overcome fear with hope. We are human because we are unpredictable. Imagine, all of us when we fell in love, and I'm constantly falling in love, but that's another story. But the idea is...
With somewhat disastrous results sometimes.
Oh, kahani wo dusri kahani hai. Okay. And so you say, she loves me, she loves me not, she loves me, she loves me not, she loves me, and she loves me not. You give that to AI, you know what will happen? She loves me, she loves me, she loves me, she loves me, she loves me. It takes the unpredictability of love out, then there would be no love. It takes the unpredictability of life. Life exists because it's unpredictable. Otherwise, if you knew exactly what you're going to do tomorrow and the day after and the day after, the day after, I promise you most of us will one day get up in the morning and kill ourselves because it's too ordinary. It's flat. And if life doesn't, it only is not flat because it's unpredictable. So that's why I'm not afraid of creativity. The only thing I'm afraid of is my own inertia. I'm inertia, chalo yaar, ChatGPT se karwa do. It happened. When there was Mr. India 2, I said, I'm not going to make it, but I'll help you write it. The most expensive writers in India came to me with a plot, 2, 3, 4, 5-page plot. And one day my cook came to me and said, Sir, I've also, many bhi banaya na, Mr. India 2, kahani. Now, yeah, either I get bad food or I have to read it. So I read it. It was the best one. How did that happen? I said, Nilesh, kahan se? Sir, your computer, ChatGPT. So ChatGPT gave him the base. But it was a predictable story. ChatGPT by that time read everything that was ever written about Mr. India and understood what the basic conflicts were. So if you have inertia, if you are watching Game of Thrones, you settle down like that. Chalo yaar, Game of Thrones dekhte hain. You know the characters. You don't want the characters different. There's very little difference you want when you're watching an episode that you got addicted to. Little tiny changes here, little tiny changes there. How easy is it for AI to pick those up? So while we are paying writers a lot of money to write the next 20 episodes, AI will do it in 5 minutes for no money. That's why we had a Hollywood strike. But if you are doing unpredictable things, AI can't catch you.
We'll come back to intuition and ask Gupta ji, ChatGPT in a second. But Shekhar, day before yesterday, you shared a story with us at breakfast in Houston. and it was the
That was
closing
day before
line.
yesterday. I change every day.
And
That was a lie.
But just tell everybody how that became, it became viral, and then what did you do
What was the story?
about the girl on the
Oh,
yacht?
man, don't go there. So,
One of his love stories.
if you go to my, go to my Instagram account, follow me, you'll see the story. It was a story about me when I was about 21, 22, and we were on a boat that we stole because my friend's father had a boat, and 4 of us took it, and we were sailing all along to Ibiza, and we got to Ibiza, and we went to the old port of Ibiza, and next to our boat was the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen. And at that age, I never asked her name. She never asked for my name. One evening, one night, we fell in love. We fell deeply in love. And I remember as that boat was leaving, she said, "Come with me. Come with us." I said, "Where are you going?" I said, "We're going to sail along the coast of South America." And I've never forgotten that. I've never forgotten that. How does life actually turn out? What if I had jumped boats? It was only like right next door. All I had to do to take that one step, I would have never maybe become a filmmaker. What would have my life been? And it's a constant idea. Who decided? Now, even science is saying that the future is deciding the present. I mean, there are mathematical equations. Do we have karma? Do we have destiny? But that one decision would have changed my life. Why didn't I go? And what would have happened if I go? It's never, and I was sitting coming on the Emirates flight, and there was a Swiss air hostess. And she was talking about the fact that she's doing Vedic astrology. I said, come on, But I was constantly thinking, although I always have that idea, and this 2 kids in Spanish, they were screaming and shouting. They're charming kids. When I say, "Shut up, yeah," let me just say. And a woman came up to calm them down. And I think she got very embarrassed because of shouting. And she said, "Oh, sorry, okay, sorry. Where are you from?" And I said, "I'm from India." And she says, "I remember a very charming boy, Indian boy, that was on the boat next to me in Ibiza." See? Does life come around? Did this happen? Are we living in a sense of reality? Are you sitting here? Am I not sitting here? No, it's true. I mean, are you laughing or not? Am I creating this whole illusion? I mean, if you go down to studies of, our Puranas and things, they said, you are creating the universe in your own imagination. That's what I love about creativity. I'm creating things in my own imagination.
And as a creative person, you actually started as an accountant? All hope is not lost.
I know, I did. I mean, what do middle-class boys do? And everybody says you went from being a chartered accountant to be a filmmaker. That's a complete lie. I just ran away from being an accountant. I ran away, said, this is not what I want to do. And I asked myself,
तो मम्मी पापा ने क्या कहा?
उन्होंने बहुत कोशिश की कि इसकी शादी कर दो. उनको कहा कि देखो ये इंडस्ट्रियल्स की लड़की इससे शादी कर लो. Chartered accountancy is a great degree to happen. They thought maybe all I need was sex. They hadn't realized that I've lived in London for 5 years. Like that wasn't the issue. So what was the issue? The issue was that I didn't know myself. And fortunately, at that time, everybody in London, there was a big musical. It was a time of, I met Mick Jagger the other day. I said, Mick, I was there in Hyde Park when you sang, I Can't Get It, Can Get No Satisfaction. He looked at me and said, oh man, Shekhar, there are very few of us left. I said, okay. But we were in that stage where we were being encouraged to question everything. We question who I am. And the only answer I had is, get out. Go throw yourself down the stream. Go run once again down the stream and risk falling in, risk dying, risk not knowing yourself, take everything and put it at risk and see what happens. That's all I've done. I'm sitting here talking to you. I'm putting myself at complete risk getting him to talk to me. And I don't know what's going to happen. So ask me something that push me to the wall.
And your risk of going down the stream made you a model, and it made you an actor initially. Was that for the sex or for the money?
पैसे चाहिए थे यार. I was broke. And I needed money, and I decided to get married. And somebody was going to give me money to keep my beard and appear as a model. And so
Any of you have seen the Dick Jam ads of that time? Okay, some people are
do
still
you
alive.
find that there's a guy who's desperately asking for money in that ad? No? Wearing those expensive suits?
So how did that first movie, how did Masoom happen? Again, I don't think AI can quite do a Masoom at any point of time, but how did Masoom happen for you? You went to a producer, and what happened?
Um, I helped a producer buy a great film called Ardha Satya. My friend bought it, and he said, so why don't you make a film? And I said, yeah, I'd like to make a film. And I told him a story. I always wanted to, by that time, I had constantly making up stories. And I told him a story. He said, okay, I have this financier. Go talk to the financier. So I went to the financier. The financier is sitting with me, and he's listening to my story. How many times you all guys went for an interview, and the guy who's interviewing you is yawning? Do you know what that feels like? Because in that yawn, I saw the end of a career that had never begun. And so there were lots of pictures of kids behind him. So I changed my story. I just shifted. My producer's kicking me under the foot. And I changed my story. And I had read this book called Man, Woman, and Child, which actually Masoom wasn't. But I just started to tell a story of 3 children and this, that. And he suddenly said, हाँ, इसका पैसा मैं दूंगा. So everybody who says to us, oh man, Shekhar, you had this great idea of telling this great story, it got told by chance. And then I went to make it. I'd never made a film before. I was never assisted anybody before. I never read a book on cinema, and I made a film. And now, and everybody said, how did you do that shot? I said, it just happened. Us waqt kuch kiya. You know, that's creativity. It's creativity. We put too much asset on thought. Satyajit Ray had one shot in his film where the scene was in a rear view mirror and the characters were in the back seat of the car talking, and half of the mirror was cracked. Chapters were written about the meaning of the cracked mirror. And then somebody went to Satyajit Ray and said, so why was that mirror cracked? He said, oh, that because I could see the camera in the mirror, so I broke it. See what I mean? Perspective. And it just turned out by chance to be something that had such deep resonance in the audience. So what is it? What is it? I mean, I want to deny this aspect of the creative, No, that I am. But No. I want to deny this idea कि सोच के करते हैं हम, सोच के बहुत planning and all. It happens. Has it already happened? Has the boat already left? Was I on the boat and I'm living a life that I'm not living right now? Am I on that boat going? These are questions as a creative person you're constantly asking yourself. You live in the idea of what is illusion, what is not. Here's what I do. I work a lot with Kate Blanchett. You've all heard of her. So,
you all have seen Elizabeth? Anybody?
All right, well, if you haven't, you've seen her other films. I don't think there's anybody who's not seen her, but Elizabeth was her first film. That's another story, how that happened.
You fell in love?
No.
No, let's not go down that route. That'll be another session. Okay. Take that question back.
I am like a general going to war, or everything I just said, that it just happens is a belief system. But preparing for a film is a sense of panic. I have to shoot. What am I going to do? I'm coming here to talk to you. What should I say? What should I not say? Now that I've given that up, I'm not that afraid of you. But I prepare like a general going there, and then my biggest fear is my preparation. Because I've prepared for everything except that one moment. You can't prepare for a moment that hasn't arrived. How do you? You have prepared for, if you're a general, the enemy might come from this way or that way, or the bullets will be flying. But the moment hasn't arrived. So when I go to shoot, I'm begging for the moment. Come on, moment. Literally, I'm not kidding. This is what I do. Moment, why aren't you telling me something? I'm asking for faith. I'm asking for God. What is it that this moment wants to tell me? What is it? So I have to be humble. And so what I do is I panic my mind because my ego exists here, my preparations exist in my mind, and I have to go down to the heart. Because it's my heart that the moment will talk to, not my head. And if you ask me that, I'll tell you all the scientific research has been done there, but that's another one. But it's my heart that has to listen. Oh, my brain is listen, my head is listen, logic is reason. And then I'll say, because you're spending $500,000 of somebody's money and there are 200 people sitting there, and my assistant director will say, Kapur, sir, how do we place it? What shot will we do? I say, Kate, how would you want to do it? And Kate would say, Shekhar, you're doing it again, aren't you? You don't really know what you're going to do, do you? I said, of course I do. She says, no, you don't. And that's how it starts. I don't. And then suddenly, like an artist with an empty canvas, with a brush, where the paint is dripping, is faced an empty canvas. And you say, where is the first brushstroke? How do I do it? It's a state of absolute panic. So if you ever watch my TED Talk, it talks about the idea of panic as a provoker of creativity. So I face that absolute panic when I realize I'm going to be fired, and then it comes. The moment comes out of that. The moment didn't come out of my preparation. It did, in a way, because I gave myself a million options. It becomes one of those. But that's what I do all the time, and that's why I'll die very young. Because I'm constantly turning myself into a state of panic, 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 a state of panic.
Panic and creativity. What about, you talked about intuition. What about intuition and creativity?
That's all it is. I use panic as my tool to get into the zone. Absolute intuition is devotion. Absolute intuition is being in the zone. You talk to the greatest... So you talk to the greatest comic stand-ups of all time, or you talk to actors, or you talk to composers, what happens? The comic stand-up will talk to the same, he said, I've talked to, Jim Carrey told me this, he said, I would talk to the same audience with the same joke, with the same pauses, and the same thing, everything, nothing. I would go home crying, and the next day I'd do it again. Same audience, same thing, same jokes, and it'd work. Somewhere, the audience intuition and my intuition got into sync. How it happened, I don't know. So your intuition is a subconscious, it's something much more eternal. That somehow my intuition comes when everybody's intuition comes around me like a full circle. So that's why when I'm directing, a lot of directors will go behind the monitor. I'm too scared, because what I need to do is to create a circle of trust, a circle of love, and a circle of intuition that I don't have to say anything to the actors. Intuitively, there is some kind of circle and some kind of messages that my heart is speaking to them. Not my mind, not my voice, but the energy of the heart is speaking. It's the energy of the heart is what intuition is. Did I say that well?
Beautiful.
If I just clap, because he doesn't like me. Thank you.
But to be able to get
No, he
to
does
this...
like me. I'm sorry, that was misplaced here.
He's being needy now. Give him a second. But to get to the space of energy of heart and to get to the space of intuition, you need to get rid of ego and you need to stop controlling.
We need to understand what ego means, different things too. We have a creative ego and we have an ego. And it's very difficult to find, am I doing this because of my I need both. I need the ego to tell a lie to the financier sitting there that I want to make the film. That's not my creative ego, it's my ego working. Film banani hai. Then you get into the creative ego. The creative ego is the heart ego. The ego is the mind ego. What was the question?
I mean, do you have to let go of control?
Yeah, you
have to let go of ego?
It's something I've understood. You have to let go of your individuality. To me, if you ask me, the biggest burden I carry as a creative person that I have to manage is my own sense of individuality. I, Shekhar Kapur, I'm directing this film. I have to get rid of that. I have to let go of that individuality, and I have to understand that I am the tree that I can see fluffy. I do that often. I'll see a tree waving and say, I am the tree, I am the leaf, I am this, I am that, and I'm sure that a lot of Buddhists are doing the same thing, in their meditation. So you're looking for a sense of divinity. And what is divinity but the letting go of yourself? You know, Meera and Krishna, Krishna, right? Chief Radha, no, even Meera. Meera was devote, yeah. Meera absorbed, like, totally dissolved herself in her love for Krishna. So letting go of your ego is a kind of a dissolution into the creative act. You and the creative act become the same. It's like the classical music, the singers, you know, they sing the same rag day in and day out, and day in they sing it again and again and again and again. And I used to wonder, why? You attained a sense of perfection. That's not what they're looking for. They're looking for that moment when they and the rag are one. That's devotion. That's intuition. That's the loss of your sense of individuality. That's the being taken over by the heart into the heart space and the act of creation. They become one. To become one with something, that's what the people Buddhists say, that when we meditate, we become one thing. It's not that different. The act of creation is not that different.
But what do you do with the burden of being Shekhar Kapur, or the burden of being so successful that everybody is going to look at the next film as, oh my God? How do you get rid of that burden of expectation of the audience, of the producers, of everybody who's invested into the Shekhar Kapur?
See, the biggest fear is not them. The biggest burden is Shekhar Kapur, the individuality of Shekhar Kapur, if I can get rid of that. But one trick I do, I've never made the same film. Every film is different. I will not tackle it. So from Masoom to Mr. India to Bandit Queen to Elizabeth to rom-com, like whatever, What Love Has Got to Do It, with a battle scene like Four Feathers, a war film. I was too scared of doing the same thing. I'm doing one now, but I've learned enough, but it's different enough. But so, yeah, the fear of doing the same thing again is the fear of not being challenged. And the fear of not being challenged is the fear that you will not try as hard. The hurdle has to be higher. You have to jump over a higher hurdle and a higher level. And the fear of failure, I need it. If I don't have the fear of failure, why would I make a film? Why would you climb a mountain if you couldn't die? You need that. You need that sense of deep-seated sense of fear of failure. It's a very important thing to be creative.
When you were doing Mr. India, one of the things you said is that you always used to look to your 4-year-old.
Not 4, 11.
Or 6 or 8 or whatever. But your kid, your inner self.
Yeah, always. I had an 11-year-old, was a mini me, if you like, sitting next to me every time I took a shot.
You have a therapist, right?
Yeah.
Just checking.
No, my therapist is 11 years old. And I would ask this 11-year-old kid, I said, do you like the shot? He would say, oh God, that was so boring. That was so adult. Oh my God. So I would take it again. Literally, I had that 11-year-old sitting with me all the time as my kind of mentor. I could see him. He's little me, mini me. So I'm not just making that up. It happened constantly. Otherwise, where would I, as an actor as a director who made Masoom and Bandit Queen, something like that, saying how to tell Amrish Puri to say, Mogambo khush hua. वो कैसे सकता है? वो 11 साल के बच्चे ने बोला. That's a little kid in me saying, that's how he should say it.
But how many of you have seen Bandit Queen? Yeah, it has to be one of the most. I remember I was there for his first screening at the Alliance Française of the French Cultural Institute in Delhi, and there was a reception after that. But when you came out, you were so viscerally upset in your gut that many of us just left and drove away because you didn't have any way to be able to express the pain and the anger of what you saw in that film. Tell us a little bit about how that came about, because that was a film that blew everybody away. It wasn't about a kid film. It wasn't a Masoom. It wasn't what was going to be Mr. India. It was something that I don't think has been made since then.
So it wasn't the approach to the film. When I first started to look at it, I realized that when that was happening, I was living just 100 miles away. And I realized as we were writing the script that I'm responsible. I am the villain, I am the rapist. And it's only when I started to find myself guilty of rape that film, the anger was at myself for not understanding my own sense of masculinity. For not, when I was told as a young Punjabi boy, they go, how sweet is that girl? Kitni soni hai, kitni pyari hai. Ja gal karna, So go talk to the girl. No, she's just being shy. We were taught that. And so, as I started to understand this kind of false sense of masculine burden that I carried, I went into the film thinking that I'm the rapist. So the anger that people felt was the anger directed at myself as I was filming. And I remember when I was filming the gang rape scene, I explained everything to my DOP, Ashok Mehta, who passed away. He was a great DOP. And when I went to, and it was not, there was just doors opening, closing, light changing, men walking in, close-ups. And I would just go up and say, Ashok, I can't shoot this film, the scene. And he would say, you have to finish it, you have to finish it. I would go out, I would throw up, I would come back, and I would shoot. I would go out, throw up, and come back, shoot. It was painful. I don't know if I can do that again ever. And I remember that, shall I? See, you have to be everybody. I have to be everybody. I have to experience every emotion to be able to portray it. And the little girl, iske baad maybe none of you will want to have a cup of tea with me again, but I'll tell you. Run. There was that scene where the 12-year-old girl was married to a pedophile who was about 35, and there was a scene where she was raped by her own husband. That girl had been calling me Shekhar uncle, Shekhar uncle, Shekhar uncle. And I did not know how to shoot the scene. How do you get yourself to believe, otherwise, okay, a little scream here and there. But I needed to know how to shoot it in a way that it would deeply, deeply affect the people in the audience. Otherwise, it's just a scene. I'm being, exploitative. So then I asked myself, Shekhar, you said that you are the rapist. Can you be a pedophile rapist? Literally, I had to do that to myself. Ashok Mehta, my DOP, was very noisy. The whole set was very noisy. And I kept looking at the girl and I said, is it possible there? And that girl, I realized, was looking at me and said, looking into my eyes, I could see there was something shifting in her eyes. And then suddenly, the whole set went quiet. And I looked around and I said, why has the set gone quiet? And I realized I was just walking towards her. And she was backing away. That became the first shot of that scene. So what did I find in myself? I still don't ask myself, what did you find in yourself? We as creative people write so many things. We write poetry. When you write poetry, you want to write with angst, you write horrible things. I made a film where I was angry that I am the rapist. Do you find it somewhere in yourself, It was a tough film. So they wanted to do another director's commentary. And I had to watch the film again. And I started to sob at the end of the film. And my assistants came and said, oh, were you that moved by a film? I said, no. I just realized that I will never be able to make a film like this again because I can't put myself through that again.
Shekhar, what's the role of artists today? Is it to show or hold, make sure that people are accountable for the power that they have? Is it to shine, to show a mirror to the kind of society that we have? I mean, in many ways, Bandit Queen epitomized that. It sort of really showed you the mirror, and I think everybody who watched it, certainly me and Punita, you had no idea the horror of it. It's like apocalypse, the horror, and we're seeing all of this horror surround us today. Qatar has just been bombed. What's the role of an artist? Or does an artist have a role?
I think that every artist in this world that you've heard of has raised the question. It's the artist's responsibility to raise the question. But for the artist to say that here's the answer to that question is irresponsible in that kind of film. So when I went to the West to do. Bandit Queen is the film that got me a lot of accolades in Hollywood. But they said, but Mr. Kapoor, you don't understand the third act, you know. Filmmaking is a three-act structure. Storytelling is, you have the first act, second act, but you don't have a third act in that. So do you understand what a three-act structure? I said, of course I do. There was a deliberate reason that Bandit Queen did not have the third act in it, because I did not want the audience to come out saying, oh, the problem's solved. It's not solved. That's why everybody got a little angry, because, you know, it's like watching Diwar, and he says, in the end he says, हाँ मेरे पास माँ है, and says, माँ से क्या होता है? And ending the film. You know, you'd come out feeling, actually, what went wrong? Because the third act doesn't work. So that's like sublimation. The sublimation of the story of the plot is what we call the third act. And people, so, but I had a very deliberate reason to not have the sublimate the plot, because otherwise it wouldn't have. Everybody said, हाँ ठीक है, बहुत अच्छी कहानी थी, बहुत अच्छे performance है, but to come out feeling, because I hadn't been able to solve the problem. That's why I think it's important for artists, and they have always done it. They've raised, we get very upset when somebody else raises a question about our society. But every artist has to raise a question about their society, not have answers. Sawal pucho. That's it. Sawal pucho, phir dobara sawal pucho, phir dobara sawal pucho. Whichever way. I mean, there are films being made in India where people say, oh, it's just propaganda. But it's that artist's right to raise that question, you know?
And Elizabeth had all the three acts, Elizabeth and the Golden Age.
No. Golden Age wasn't as good a film as Elizabeth. But Elizabeth, how many of you actually saw it? Kate Blanchett's a lot. So what did that mean in the end when she came out with white makeup? What did that mean?
You all remember when she went?
So did it mean that she had given up her true self to become a queen? That was one theme that was going through the film. Why does a woman have to do white makeup to come out and become queen? What was the meaning? Or was it an idea which is a very, where I come from, a very Hindu idea, that she transcended? Because she did come out, and I made that dialogue at the last moment as she was walking. She goes to Richard Attenborough, Cecil, and she says, look, I am now married to England. So was that what it was about? Or was it about transcendence? It could have been many ideas. So I don't explain. Because that white makeup, she got over 10 years because she had pox and little holes in her skin. And so she used to use this lead makeup, which probably ultimately killed her. But this white makeup to cover a blemished skin and to look younger. But I used it as a metaphor of virginity.
I'm going to open it up to the house and then come back towards the end. Any questions? Yep.
Okay, I need the lights to be a little lower because I can't see who's talking.
Do we have a mic right here? Any others? Because I'll take two questions together and then come back. Okay.
So when you were making Elizabeth, did you think at all about women and ambition and power? Because you're saying, she becomes queen, but do you have any sort of commentary on it? Because it is irrelevant. When I was watching it, I work in consulting, I work in the corporate world.
Yeah, no, that was.
That was sort of what I drew from it. Is there something more you'd like to say about that?
That was one of the fundamental themes of why do women need to forgo their their feminine selves and their own sexuality to be in power, whereas men have to assert their sexuality to be in power. That was a recurring theme in my head in that. And because she went from a very young, quite a pretty young, sexy girl. In fact, I got into a lot of trouble because they said she was a virgin queen, and I showed her in bed with her boyfriend. So I got a lot of flack initially. But that was the idea. I wanted to say that virginity was a political statement, transcending from herself into Virgin Mary because she had subdued Catholicism and she was a Protestant. So the transcendental towards Virgin Mary was like, look, men will worship Virgin Mary. And so she became the Virgin. That's what she says in the end. Look, I have become a virgin. She didn't say, I am a virgin, I have become a virgin. So it was a definite theme through the film. about the fact that women have to deny their sexuality to come into power, where men have to do the completely opposite thing. They have to get tough. And in fact, if you ask me, we are all, it's philosophy, bolo? Because we are all feminine and masculine, all of us, within ourselves. And the right balance of our masculine selves comes up, sometimes our feminine self comes up, and sometimes as a society, as you're noticing now, there's too much masculinity. You know, and what we need is more feminine. Now, I'm not saying maybe more women, but we need a more greater, larger feminine self or feminine ideas to come in to the world politics. It's becoming too masculine.
Any other question at the back there? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi. You said you got into filmmaking because you wanted to understand who you are. And then you told us the story.
No, sorry, I didn't understand. I didn't say
You
that.
said you...
No, I didn't say that. What I said was I left accounting because I wanted to find out who I was.
Fair. My bad. In that journey of self-exploration and making these scenes that you just spoke about, for example, like Bandit Queen, were you ever scared of what you might find inside you? And from that darkness, how do you then come back to, let's say, a playfulness of Mogambo Khushua, and how do you reconcile these pieces inside?
So, yeah, and I think I understand your question, but I'll try and answer it as I understand it, okay? I left because I wanted to know who I was. Yeah, the idea of who am I? And am I afraid of the darkness? Of course I am. I wake up every morning afraid of my darkness. And then I overcome it with the idea that, you know, the fact that the angel in me and the devil in me, they dance all the time, you know? And the devil sometimes is more powerful than the angel. And am I afraid? Yeah, of course I'm afraid. Anybody that says to me as a creative person who's constantly writing is not afraid is lying. We are afraid all the time. We're afraid. And that contributes to the surge of wanting to know who I am. If I knew I would not be afraid, then I'm lying, or I just know who I am. That's impossible. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, fear is a very, very essential part of knowing who you are, and it's, yeah, absolutely.
Shekhar, Neha's given us a timeout, but just the last thing. Music has played a very strong fundamental in your films. Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan in Bandit Queen, when he wasn't even known, he wasn't Nusrat in the way that we know Nusrat, but he did your soundtrack there. The music in Mr. India, and of course the background score for Elizabeth was absolutely stunning. Tell us a little bit about, you know, music and its role.
I think sometimes that I make films because I love music. But there is a reason, because music to me is an emotional idea that I add characters to and that I add visuals to. So if you remember Elizabeth, I knew I wanted to use the Requiem, Mozart's Requiem at the end, and I played it, and I shot to it. And often when I'm talking to them about my films, and they say, it has the waves of musicality, like the waves of an ocean. It has the waves of musicality. It's a fundamental thing that I do. I play music. I remember even Bandit Queen, I knew when, it was an amazing experience when Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan went. I was very fond of R.D. Burman. And I remember we were doing the score, and he learned that, you know, Panchamda, R.D. Burman just died. And he was so devastated. And we were doing the Bahemai, aftermath of Bahemai massacre with all the funeral pyres and everything, and women crying. And he said to me, he said, Shekhar ji, ek kaam karte hain. I said, what? He said, aap film dekhiye, you watch the film, और मैं आपकी आंखों में देखूंगा, और आपकी आंखों से मुझे इमोशन मिल जाएगा और मैं गाना गाऊंगा. That's what he did. Can you imagine sitting in front of Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan? He's looking directly at your eyes and singing and crying at the same time, and he's asking me to watch my film. But how did these connections get made? Through music. What was happening at that time? I still don't understand it, but how did he know what I wanted by looking to my eyes, all because R.D. Burman died? See how life moves? So music has always really, really formed a very, very essential part to me If I was to make a film without music, don't know what to do. I'll make it in poetry, give it rhythm.
Choti Si Umariya by Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan in Bandit Queen is something that continues to haunt you. Ladies and gentlemen, Shekhar Kapur.
Thank you.
And his next film, Masoom, which he's working on currently. Best wishes for that, and thank you all.